Do you feel like Windows XP was faster than Windows 11? You're not alone. Everyone's wondering how it's possible that computers still feel as slow as they did back in 2010, even though technology has improved so much. It's such a widespread issue that it even has a name, the Bill Gates Law. But why does this happen? What role does Bill Gates play in all of this? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Most of you watching probably think the only solution is switching to Linux. But no, there's actually a much deeper fix, and I'll tell you about it at the end of the video. You've probably heard of Moore's Law at some point in your life. What you may not know is how much it affects your everyday computing. In short, Moore's Law is the observation that the number of transistors on an integrated circuit doubles every 2 years. Does that mean computers double in speed every 2 years? Not exactly. We'll get to that. The original law, formulated by Gordon Moore, founder and CEO of Intel, actually said that the number of components on an integrated circuit would double every year. He made this prediction in 1965. Then in 1975, he updated it, saying that while components had doubled yearly so far, from that point onward, they'd likely double every 2 years instead. And he nailed it. Since 1975, the size of components in microchips has halved roughly every 2 years. In 1974, they were 6 microns. By 1987, under 1 micron. In 2016, down to 10 nanometers. Today we're at around 3 nanometers, and by 2027 we're expected to hit 1 nanometer. Do you know how small that is? 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter, 1 millionth of a millimeter. It's insane. But now comes the twist. You'd think Moore's Law means that every 2 years your computer should feel twice as fast, right? Wrong. Especially if you use Windows, chances are your PC feels just as fast as it did 2 or even 10 years ago. So what's going on? Is this a contradiction of Moore's Law? Not really, because Moore's Law is only half the story. It talks only about hardware, how the physical capabilities of your machine improve. But what about software? Here comes the other law, aptly named the Gates Law, after Microsoft founder and CEO Bill Gates. The Gates Law says the speed of software halves every 18 months. This way, the Gates Law counteracts all the positive effects of Moore's Law, causing the user experience to stay the same or even degrade over time. The interaction between these two laws is why your computer today feels slower than in 2010, even though it's technically way more powerful. This idea has other nicknames too, like the Wintel Duple from Windows plus Intel, What Intel Giveth, Microsoft Taketh Away, or even What Andy Giveth, Bill Taketh Away, referring to the first names of the Intel and Microsoft CEOs back in the 90s. Now that we've identified the problem, how do we escape this hamster wheel? How do we stop the cycle driven by Moore's and Gates' laws? I'll explain that in just a minute. But first, you need to understand the actual techniques Windows uses to slow down your computer. Much has been said and speculated about why Microsoft software keeps getting slower. After a long period of research, I've decided to break down the causes into 3 categories, depending on how you feel about Microsoft. In other words, I've got good explanations for you whether you think Microsoft means well, you're neutral, or you think they're the devil. If you believe Microsoft is just trying to improve the user experience, there's one very clear explanation: feature creep. Let me say it in plain English. Microsoft wants to add so many features to Windows to improve the user experience that they end up writing new code and launching new products faster than hardware can keep up. They're so visionary, current computers simply can't handle it. So, in their attempt to make the user experience better, they end up making it worse because the machine just can't keep up. Paradoxical, right? Now, if you're neutral toward Microsoft, meaning you don't see them as good or evil, just another player in the tech market. By the way, that's my own position, and where I think the real solution lies. Then maybe you apply Hanlon's razor. No, I'm not talking about robbing anyone. Hanlon's razor is the principle that says, never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity. From this point of view, Gates' law is a consequence of sloppiness, or a lack of resources, on the part of Microsoft's developers. Windows is such a massive codebase under so much pressure to deliver new features that proper maintenance just doesn't happen. From this perspective, the code is poorly optimized, bloated with leftover legacy chunks, and who knows, maybe Microsoft doesn't even have the most talented programmers. I can't say for sure because Windows is closed source. Like I said, this is just speculation. Finally, if you believe Bill Gates is the devil, you probably won't have any trouble accepting that Gates's law is a deliberate strategy. The theory goes like this: Microsoft struck a deal with Intel. You make faster chips, I'll make slower software. That way, users stay stuck in place, but we both keep getting richer. The way this would work is Microsoft forces OS upgrades that bring in bloated performance-hogging features, while Intel adds planned obsolescence to their chips to keep you upgrading. Now that we've seen the possible causes behind Gates' law, how do we fix it? How do we make our computers actually feel faster? I know what you're thinking. This is Linux, Chad, so obviously he's going to say the solution is Linux. Well, no. Sorry to disappoint. Listen carefully, because this might surprise you. Alright, fair enough. Time to lay my cards on the table. If you use GNU Linux, you simply don't face the problems described in this video. Since it's open source software with thousands of contributors around the world, it's nearly impossible for parts of the code to go unmaintained or be extremely inefficient. What's more, because it's a community that values minimalism and simplicity, they strive to make software that gets the job done using the least amount of resources possible. So yes, GNU Linux is one possible escape from Gates's law, but it's definitely not the only one. There's another solution proposed by the actual author of the law. Because as you can imagine, Bill Gates didn't come up with Gates's law. It's actually a specific case of a more general principle called Wirth's law, which states, software is getting slower more rapidly than hardware is becoming faster. This law was formulated by Niklaus Wirth, creator of the Pascal programming language, in an article from 1995. One of the causes Wirth points to is that users can't distinguish between essential and superficial features. They keep demanding flashy, shiny functionalities, without realizing the hidden cost these features have on their system. And so they end up needing more powerful and expensive hardware just to keep up. So, the solution isn't necessarily to use Linux. The real solution is for users to become more aware of the devices they use. They don't need to be computer engineers, but they should understand the basics. They should know that every animation, every superficial feature comes at a cost, both in performance and in money. It just so happens that Linux users, since they have more control over their systems, are more aware of this reality, and they act accordingly. They don't demand overly decorated systems packed with flashy buttons and programs they'll never open. They just want their system to work well.